Suntem la Pearl Harbor, lume multă, atracție turistică. Avem o rezervare peste 2 ore și jumătate pentru USS Arizona. Pentru că ne este foarte foame, o să mergem să mâncăm ceva și apoi o să ne întoarcem. Este interzis să intri cu orice bagaj mai mare de dimensiunea unui telefon mobil. În schimb, accesul la USS Arizona este gratuit. Pentru celelalte se plătește, nu știu, $20-25. După cum vedeți, e destul de multă lume. Am găsit parcare cu greu, dar suntem aici, Pearl Harbor. Ceea ce vedeți este submarinul USS Boffin în Pearl Harbor, în Hawaii. Un submarin folosit în al doilea război mondial. Apoi, cred că și în războiul din Coreea. Apoi decommissioned, retras și folosit pentru antrenamentul ofițerilor și marinarilor în special, a celor care lucrează pe submarin. Acest vas, așa cum îl vedeți, în al doilea război mondial a scufundat 44 de vase japoneze. Ceea ce vedeți acolo, cred că sunt cele 44 de vase pe care le-a avut ca victime. Este unul dintre cele mai decorate vase de luptă ale marinei americane. O serie de puncte care comemorează tot felul de momente din al doilea război mondial. Iată bastionul Pacificului. Ancora din fața noastră este ancora de pe USS Arizona. Vasul scufundat de japonezi în 7 decembrie 1941. Iar ceea ce vedeți acolo în depărtare este locul vasului Arizona, pe care o să mergem să-l vizităm. Această statuie a marinarului însingurat, Lonely Sailor, are la bază metal, aici metal din vasul Arizona. pe acolo și au luat aici.
Just legal.
Boats and stuff, small things.
Where are the aircraft?
They might have been. We'll find out what Selfridge is. What's Selfridge? Selfridge Tucker. What's Tucker? I don't know.
It's a destroyer.
Oh, it's just they're all destroyed. Have all the firepower. Look at them all. They're all gone.
Where is it?
Yeah, they move very quickly too. Destroyers. There's the troll that never charges on destroyers. The submarines. Destroyers move very quickly. They zip around.
So we are here, Arizona, and
Larger national monument. The World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument encompasses different sites of the Pacific Theater, beginning with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The monument also includes two other memorials located on Ford Island, both for ships lost here during the attack. The USS Oklahoma and USS Utah memorials commemorate the loss of almost 500 sailors and Marines. In a few moments, you'll see a film that explains why Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, with actual footage of the attack. This film is about nations and conflict, a broad overview of this monumental war.
Out in the waters of Pearl Harbor, a striking white monument seems to ride at anchor. It is a memorial to a fallen crew, to a sunken ship. A symbol of a day that was burned into the American memory. The day was December 7th, 1941. The day of Japan's surprise attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet here at Pearl Harbor. The day of our entry into World War II. The memorial stands over the sunken hulk of the battleship Arizona. Many of the men who died aboard the Arizona that morning still lie below her decks. The ship on which they served is now their tomb. The memorial, a shrine to their memory. that Sunday in December. Why was our fleet attacked? Why were so many killed? The road to war between the United States and Japan began long before Pearl Harbor.
From the Japanese advance, which is sweeping over great provinces of northern China.
In 1931, Japanese army extremists seized China's northern province of Manchuria. And in 1937, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China. War began in Europe 2 years later. Japan watched as Nazi armies occupied the Netherlands and France. Soon Britain was under siege. Far away in Southeast Asia, those European powers had colonies rich in natural resources. Now their colonies were ripe for conquest by Japan, the Nazis' ally. But the United States had interests in Asia too.
American lives are endangered as the invaders are about to storm in.
We were outraged by Japan's aggression in China.
Victims of the calamity of war.
We couldn't allow Japan to dominate the Pacific. To deter Japanese aggression, the United States moved her Pacific Fleet out to its base at Pearl Harbor in the Hawaiian Islands.
West Virginia steams from New York Harbor to join the rest of the fleet, ordered to the Pacific.
The backbone of our fleet had always been our battleships, armored giants named for the states of the Union.
To stand on duty in the Pacific, the fleet of the United States.
The USS Arizona was one of them. She was launched in 1915, modernized in 1930, ready to cruise and fight in the vast Pacific. She was a small city gone to sea. More than 1,500 men served aboard her. Officers, seamen, cooks, carpenters, gunners, Marines, and airmen.
All hands, man your battle station.
She was protected by more than 8,000 tons of armor plating.
The Admiral on his flagship as he leads his squadron into action. The mythical battle ordered by the signal.
Her 14-inch guns could fire a shell 20 miles. In war games and exercises, she looked invincible. But the Navy was soon to learn that the age of the battleship was at an end. The age of the aircraft carrier had arrived. One man who knew it was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, Commander-in-Chief of the Japanese Combined Fleet. Though opposed to war with the United States, Yamamoto believed that if Japan wanted to seize the European colonies in Southeast Asia, the U.S. fleet at Pearl Harbor would have to be knocked out first. He proposed to use Japan's first-line aircraft carriers and hundreds of planes in a massive surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Before the Americans could rebuild their fleet, Japan could achieve her goals in Asia. It was a daring gamble. In July 1941, Japanese forces seized all of French Indochina. Fearing that Japan would use these Indochina bases for an attack on our garrisons in the Philippines, the United States government took action. President Franklin Roosevelt demanded an end to Japanese aggression. To back up his demands, he stopped all sales of American oil to Japan. Oil, the lifeblood of the Japanese war machine. Committed to the conquest of Asia, Japan could not meet American demands without great humiliation. The hardline military leaders had forced Japan into a position from which there was no exit but war. In October, a war leader, General Hideki Tojo, took over as Prime Minister.
The Rockland, New York, en route to Washington. In a dramatic attempt to avert war in the Pacific, Saburo Kurosu comes as a special envoy of the Tokyo government.
Even as fruitless negotiations to lift the oil embargo continued in Washington, the Imperial Navy prepared to carry out Yamamoto's plan. On November 26th, a Japanese task force comprising 6 aircraft carriers with heavy escort, commanded by Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, headed for Hawaii. They must cross 4,000 miles of open sea undetected. The American military knew that a surprise Japanese attack on Hawaii was possible, and they thought they were prepared. The U.S. Pacific Fleet was commanded by Admiral Husband E. Kimmel. Admiral Kimmel sent out the fleet from Honolulu weekly on exercises, preparing for offensive operations in case of war with Japan. While in port, the defense of the fleet rested with the Army under the command of Lieutenant General Walter C. Short. An impressive array of coast artillery, anti-aircraft guns, and even an early form of radar protected Oahu's shores. Army fighters based at Wheeler and outlying airfields guarded the skies. Hickam Field's heavy bombers could strike an enemy fleet long before it could reach attack position. General Short believed, however, that the great danger was not air attack, but saboteurs. To make his aircraft easier to guard, he ordered them parked wingtip to wingtip, their guns unloaded, in the center of the airfields. Saturday night, December 6, 1941. Most of the fleet was in port. That evening, there was a band concert in Block Arena. The carriers Enterprise and Lexington were away, delivering aircraft for the defense of Wake Island and Midway. The last night of peace slipped away. Six o'clock a.m., 220 miles north of Oahu. Still undetected, Nagumo turned his carriers into the wind and launched his planes. First, the fighters. Then the attack planes, carrying special armor-piercing bombs to hit the battleships, or aerial torpedoes modified to run in the shallow waters of Pearl Harbor. Last, the dive bombers. 183 planes in all. 30 minutes later, a second wave of 167 planes followed. At 6:30 a.m., the destroyer Ward sighted a submarine in the restricted waters off Pearl Harbor. Ward opened fire. She sank one of the 5 two-man midget submarines that were part of the Japanese attack force. Ward radioed Naval Headquarters, "We have attacked, fired upon, and dropped depth charges upon a submarine operating in defensive sea area." Minutes later, the radar installation on the north coast detected a large flight of incoming planes. Its operators notified the information center at Fort Shafter. The officer on duty there assumed that the planes were our own B-17s, due in that day from California. The radar operators were told, "Don't worry about it." The radar had detected the Japanese strike force. At 7:48 a.m., they hit Kaneohe Bay Naval Air Station. At Fort Island Naval Air Station, dive bombers tore apart the seaplanes and their hangars. The radio operator banged out a desperate message. "Air raid Pearl Harbor, this is not drill." Then, their torpedo planes struck. The cruiser Helena was hit, and the concussion shook apart the old mine layer Oglala. She sank. On the north side of Fort Island, the cruiser Raleigh and the training ship Utah were hit. Utah capsized, taking 58 men with her. Other torpedo planes swung around the harbor entrance and attacked from the south. Their target, the great ships moored along Battleship Row. Within minutes, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and California were all hit and sinking. West Virginia settled on the shallow bottom. Hit by 2 torpedoes, California began to list and would have turned over, but was counterflooded in time. She too sank upright. But Oklahoma rolled over too quickly to be saved. Within minutes, hundreds of seamen were trapped inside. 429 men died with Oklahoma. Arizona, a few minutes after 8. An armor-piercing bomb went through her deck and ignited the forward ammunition magazine. Thousands of tons of ammunition exploded. No one who heard that sound would ever forget it. 1,177 men died in those moments. Caught off guard, men fought back from all around the harbor as best they could. Sailors, soldiers, and Marines showed courage and resourcefulness. Many decorations for valor were won that day. Anti-aircraft fire was soon spoiling the aim of the attacking planes. Navy guns claimed 5 of the 29 torpedo planes that attacked Battleship Row. Only 14 American pilots were able to rise and meet the attackers. They claimed 11 Japanese planes shot down. At about 8:50, the second wave of bombers struck. Hickam and Wheeler Fields were hit again. The second wave smashed the destroyers Cassin and Downs and Dry Dock No. 1. The destroyer Shaw's ammunition stores exploded. Sailors, thrown off their ships by the force of the explosions, swam through oil burning on the surface of the harbor. Rescue boats dragged them, alive and dead, from the inferno of flame and water. Thick smoke from the burning ships provided some cover from the Japanese planes. But through the smoke, the attackers saw a single American battleship on the move. It was Nevada, badly damaged, but bravely trying to make the open sea. Japanese bombers swarmed down in an effort to sink her and block the channel. When she could go no further, to prevent the great ship from blocking the channel, her commander ran her aground at Hospital Point. At about 10 o'clock, a little more than 2 hours after they had first appeared, the Japanese planes departed to the north. They had inflicted on the United States Navy the greatest disaster in its history. 21 vessels, including all 8 first-line battleships, were sunk or damaged. Some 170 planes, both Army and Navy, destroyed. And the dead, more than 2,400. Another 1,200 wounded. Sailors, airmen, Marines, soldiers, and civilians. The victory was bought for a small price. 29 Japanese planes shot down, 55 airmen killed. 9 of the 10 midget subcrewmen also died. One was captured to become America's first prisoner of war.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Suntem pe USS Arizona. Am văzut acel film despre ceea ce s-a întâmplat aici și continuă să fie trist. Sentimente puternice față de tot ce a reprezentat golful acesta, față de acest vas care a suferit cel mai mult. 1100 de oameni morți doar pe acest vas. Mai încolo este vasul Nevada și tot pe aici undeva sunt Utah și alte câteva.
他炸了弹药库了，上面还有飞机呢。这个应该也不会炸。有飞机不会，有飞机啊，还有飞机。
Ceea ce se vede în depărtare este vasul de luptă Missouri, pe care s-a semnat capitularea Japoniei în septembrie 1945, de față fiind amiralul Nimitz și MacArthur.